Good. Now we are continuing what we learned yesterday and the day before and the day before that. And what we're learning is the Rebbe is giving us practical advice. Now, this is what's called Dvar Malchut. This is a speech given by Lubavitcher Rebbe to his followers in 1991, which was shortly before, months before, he had a stroke, which rendered him unable to speak. And so these, and we can't say that the Rebbe didn't know what was going to happen. And the Rebbe is not a person exactly like everybody else. It says the same thing like Moses, same thing like King David. In any case, he gave us these instructions on how to bring Mashiach. How to bring Mashiach. We're all going crazy for Mashiach. Maimonides says that anybody that doesn't believe in Mashiach and wait for his arrival, he's denying the whole entire Torah. So it's pretty important, this idea of coming to Mashiach. Mashiach is going to be a person that he's simply going to teach the world. He's going to be an example of how it's possible to be what God wants you to be, like the first man, but not to make the same mistakes as the first man, to be happy, to be honest, to be dynamic, to be alive, to be practical, to be positive, to reveal all of our potential in the world. And the Rebbe said, when we do that, then the world is going to be a different world. Eventually, there'll be a world without addictions and all this aggression and all this confusion and frustration. And like we said before, even sickness will cease. Emotional sickness, physical sickness, the sociological sickness. Now we got all these, right, meaninglessness and all these sociopaths and sexopaths or whatever they're called. The world is obsessed with these crazy sexual, fetishes or whatever they want to call it. I don't know. That people, you have to be like this and you have to do this, and you have to be this way, and I want to do whatever I want to. Everything is below the belt. You have to let me do, and you have to admit, you have to call me what I want you to call me. The whole world is just going, there won't be any more of this. People will be happy and appreciate what God made them, how God made them. And not only that, they'll see that there is God, that the world is not a jungle. That's what's going to be in the world, right? The world. Listen, nowadays they have this thing about, defund the police, that they want to stop the police. Well, ideally, it's a good idea. Like communism, ideally, it's a good idea. If you could change human nature, that people wouldn't want to be, how do you say, the cruel or egotistical, avaricious, like they say, to want to have more than the next guy. But if you could really change nature, you could do that. So, how do you change people's nature? You just kill them. This is Stalin killed all these people that he thought maybe they wanted to take something, maybe they wanted to be this. So as a result, nobody changed anything. They just become murderers and thieves. The whole entire nation was on that, right? To change people's nature. How are you going to change people's natures? All these philosophies and ideas, are wonderful. But in the end, the difference is, like Professor Viktor Frankl said, they asked him once, he gave a lecture in what was called the Karl Marx University in where was it? In Vienna. So obviously, they believed that communism was a good thing, and that it's a wonderful idea. Communism is very intricate. There's also different types of communism. So they asked him what type of economic system or governmental system or whatever political system that he thinks is the best. So he said, if you ask me, basically all of them are the same. They all strive that there should be good and there should be this. They have their different opinions, but they're all the same. The question is, what means are you willing to implement, to use in order to implement your system? Right? The goals are good, but the goals are good. Even let's say Nazism was good. They thought that the Germans were the superior race and that they should rule the whole world. Okay, maybe they're right. Maybe they're right. But what means are they? I mean, certainly they were very, scientific and advanced in philosophy and in ethics and all these things, and for sure. But what means are they willing to use in order to achieve their goals, right? Communism was the total opposite of fascism, of Nazism. But in the end, they came out exactly the same. You know, the communists killed more, Stalin killed more than the Nazis did. They were willing to use any means. That's the whole point. Who is man? How are we going to change man? You can't change man against his will. Somebody told me, this is from Shakespeare, a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. In other words, you point a gun at somebody, he'll agree with you, but as soon as the gun is gone, so he won't agree with you anymore. Right? He won't agree with you. They'll still want to do the opposite of what you just told them to do. The whole idea of the Geula is to reveal in every human being the unique potential that everyone has to do what the creator, their creator that creates them, what the creator wants. The creator creates everybody's eyes. How many people are in the world? 8 billion people, let's say, in the world. So there's 16 billion eyeballs in the world. There's some people that don't have eyes. Okay, so let's say there's 15,900,000 right, eyes in the world. God creates all of them. God's pretty good. That's pretty good. You don't get, we can't create anything. To feel the creator, to feel that God is giving us our eyes and to use our eyes only for what God wants and our ears for what God wants. And believe me, God wants us to do infinitely good things, to see good in everybody. You know what that means? There's 8 billion people in the world, to see 8 billion good things. That beats watching a basketball game or a football game. More interesting for sure. Everybody is more different than every football game is. Nothing against football. I got nothing against sports. To me, it doesn't. It's a little bit interesting, but to see the good in people, everything you hear only good. But people only say good things about others, and you hear only good things. So that's the whole idea of the redemption. How do we have to do the redemption? What is it we have to do? Is we have to just leave the world as it is. The world is good. The world is good the way it is. The world is good. But we just have to see the good. That's putting the aleph into it. Put the aleph into gola, we come geula. The world is, as long as the world is blind, the person that's blind, so he's bumping into telephone poles, bumping into everything, as soon as he opens up his eyes, then he knows where to go. But it's the same person. You don't have to get rid of all the telephone poles just because this guy bumps into them all the time. Because we're blind, so we bump into each other, and everybody's this. We don't know which way is which side is the left side of the road, right side of the road. As soon as you open everybody's eyes, then they can see. You don't have to destroy the world just because you bump into it and you trip over it. So the world is good. We have to put the aleph. Says the Rebbe, what's the aleph? Aleph, first step, there's 3 meanings to aleph, each one higher than the other. Aleph is, number 1, to see there's a creator, alufo shalom. There's a creator in the world. Everything has a purpose. Nothing is accidental. Everything is meaningful. We're not here by accident. Everyone is important. That's the first level. Second level is the Torah. Aleph chachma, aleph chabina. Aleph means to teach. The Torah, to realize that the Torah is the blueprint of the world. It's the manufacturer's instructions that, as we've just finished learning, it brings godliness into the world. When a Jew learns the Torah, he brings God into the world. It's like a direct phone call to God. Brings God into the world. Learning Torah is an amazing blessing in the world. Learning Torah. And then finally, there's another level of aleph, that's Pella, and that's going to come by means of Mashiach, that the Mashiach is going to reveal the real miracle of every detail of creation, and especially every detail of the Torah. A new level of godliness, which is higher than the God that creates the world, and even higher than the surface godliness which is in the Torah. We'll feel miracles, and that's all up to us to do. The first 2 is making a vessel for godliness, seeing that there's God, and we're seeing the holiness of the Torah. And that makes a vessel, and by means of Mashiach, we reveal a whole new level of good and love and health and holiness in the whole entire world. Because since that this future redemption, this depends on Mashiach. So it's understood that also Mashiach has to also have these three things of Aleph. First of all, let's begin as the Rambam. The Rambam says the Mashiach of David is going to come from the house of King David. Remember this? House of King David from Solomon, from Shlomo. So this is what I'm going over this. Why do we have to say that the Rambam says in the Mishnayos, in his Paris explanation in Sanhedrin, on Mishnah, he explains that the Mashiach is going to come from King David. That he also says in his law book, in what's called the Yad HaChazaka in the law book. He also writes that this massive law book that has all the laws of the Torah. So it says over there that Mashiach is going to come from the house of King David. And he adds on, in the Mishnah, that's going to come from the house of King David from King Solomon. King Solomon was the son of King David, right? So King David had a lot of sons, but the King Solomon, he was the one that took over afterwards. Says the Rebbe, said, why does he have to add on Solomon? I mean, obviously the king that was after King David, he came from Solomon. All the kings of Israel, they came from King Solomon afterwards. Yehuda, the lower part. The lower part of Israel, after King David passed away, so the kingdom was split into two. But the bottom part, which that's the part that remained, that's what's left today, they were all direct descendants from King Solomon. So why do we have to say that the Mashiach is going to come from the house of King David? Good. From Solomon. Wow, why do you have to add Solomon? They all came from King Solomon. So it says the reason is in the time of King Solomon, King Shlomo, Melech Shlomo, this was something like what the future redemption is supposed to be. First of all, he built the temple. Secondly, there was godliness in the whole world. Everyone was impressed by the godliness that King Solomon brought, to the degree that the queen of Sheba, Malka Shva, she left her kingdom. She just came to see the wisdom of King Solomon, kings, and they came to see his great wisdom. All of the wise people of the world, they all surrendered to King Solomon. Not by means of any wars. Therefore, he's called King Solomon, Shlomo. He conquered the world through peace. Until all the nations, all the Gentiles in the world, Hevil the Shlomo, that they brought the sparks of holiness from their countries, their various nations and whatever. Like it was known with the queen of Sheba, king of Sheba, Malka Shva. Some people say that was Ethiopia today, anyway. This is something like the peace that's going to be in the future. We'll see why it wasn't. We'll see what was lacking. Shalo yir'u v'lo yashchitu. It says that the prophecy of the famous prophecy of Isaiah, that the nations will not destroy one another, even the wild animals. It says it'll be like Noah's Ark. Why was Noah's Ark? All the animals got along one another because there was a revelation of God. They all felt that they were creations and they should do what the Creator wants. And in that case, the Creator wanted that they shouldn't destroy each other. The lions shouldn't act like lions. And well, in the future, it's going to be like that also. The whole world will be filled with the awareness and feeling of God. Das means da. Al derech habira, like it's going to be learning Torah when we remove the bad, the essential bad, like it's going to be in the future. Like it says, Ro kol basar, all flesh will see godliness. And we say this 3 times a day, right? We say it 3 times a day. Yakiru v'yedu kol yeshvei tevel. Like kol basar, all flesh will know godliness. They'll feel there's a creator. The Yeshlomo, we can say that this is relevant to the completion of the whole thing of kingship. King David was a king, but he had a lot of opposition. He had to fight a lot of battles. King Solomon didn't have any opposition. His opposition ended up being his own self. He just took him, he sort of overstepped his boundaries a little bit. He was deposed, God took him off of the throne. That's the whole idea of kingship. Shaloch, and therefore, Eitzel Shlomo by King Solomon, his kingship was complete. Vayeshev Shlomo al Kisei Hashem, that King Solomon sat on the throne of God, b'matzav shel menucha v'shalom, in peace and rest. Be'erich lamalchus, in comparison to what was David, that King David, he always constantly had people that were against him. The last day of his life, right? The last day of his life, his son, what was his name? I forget his son. Anyway, I'll remember later. His son tried to usurp the throne. I said when he was alive, another one of his sons, right, Absalom, he tried to kill King David. He was running after him. King Saul was always running after King David. And then there was Absalom, and he had enemies all over the place, King David. Adoniyahu, that's right, his son Adoniyahu was his name. But the Ilu Zachu, if King Solomon, Melech Shlomo, if he would have merited, he would have been the Mashiach, and that would have been the Malchus based David. It would have been eternal, Begula Nitzchis. But because King Solomon made a couple of mistakes, it says he said, God said, I'm going to divide the kingdom. It was divided, like I said, Yehuda and Yisrael. God said, I love you, King Solomon, so I'm not going to do it in your lifetime, but your son is going to, and as soon as King Solomon died, so his son took over, was Rechavam, and Rechavam was not a good king. People didn't like him. And afterwards was the destruction. Afterwards, the first temple was destroyed. And afterwards it was rebuilt. 70 years later it was rebuilt, and the second temple was destroyed. 420 years after that. Stood for 420 years. And now, that was almost 2,000 years ago. And now we are in the last exile until we'll come back, the Melech HaMashiach. This will be even higher than the kingship of King Solomon. King Melech Echad, one nation, one king will be for all of them. There won't be any more division. David Abdi, he'll gather all the Jews. So that's one of the big things of Mashiach, is going to gather up all the Jews to Israel. Build the temple, gather the Jews up to Israel. And this is only going to happen by the Melech Mashiach. Melech Mashiach. Since then, the Jews have been scattered around, divided. The church has helped a lot in dividing them and scattering them and destroying them and killing them and everything. And that's why it's called, now we're in the exile of Edom, the exile of Rome, it's called. And in the future, the Melech HaMashiach will come and he will negate this. Everybody's going to realize that the whole thing was a big lie, was a big bluff, that all the religions in the world are, okay, very nice. They had spiritual aspirations, and they revealed that there's something higher than themselves. Good, let's say it's better than atheism, but the fact is it was a big lie. It's almost like the teacher at the school. I remember one of my kids, I took him out of the school afterwards. We put him in a school. When he was young, he was in Judaism, religious Jews, they put their children into like kindergarten at 3 years old. 3 years old, and they already start learning Torah. They already start learning Aleph Beis. So the teacher, it was brand new, so he gave candies to the kids to keep them quiet, and it kept them pretty good. But the thing is, when they came home, they were like all nervous wrecks, the kids, and they were all like super active. He gave them all this, the 100% sugar. We couldn't figure out why. And the guy was like, every day would hand out to the kids this big bag of sugar. So it kept them quiet for a while, but in the end, it really didn't. The same thing, all these other religions, it's like sugar, it keeps everybody sort of quiet and occupied for a while, but really everybody's uptight, you got to believe like me. It says in the future, there's going to be peace. Like the Melech HaMashiach is going to make peace in the whole world. Everyone will realize, hey, I'm being created, and all I have to do is just worship my creator. Here he is right on my, right? To know how to do it is maybe you'll have to have teachers and instructors and things like that, but I'm infinitely close to God. And that's what it says, that in the future, that's what Mashiach is going to be. It says, David Avdi Nasi La'em La'olam. It says, King David will be a ruler for them forever. According to this, now we can see that Mashiach will come from Beis David and also from King Solomon, because the novelty of Mashiach will be from both two things. King David, he'll be a king, and also King Solomon, that's going to be peace. And the main thing is that about King Solomon says that he was wise. He was a teacher. Al-Yudei means that the Mashiach will have completion, peace. It'll be a complete, peaceful kingship. Everyone will be convinced not by force. Everyone will be convinced who they are. That's what we're talking about, why communism failed and all these different things failed, because human nature is always going to be human nature. You're not going to be able to force people by yelling at them and screaming at them and forcing them and shaming them, whatever, and blaming them. Human nature is essentially good. People are essentially good. People are made in the image of God, every single person. But they have to reveal it, and they have to reveal it in themselves. And when they do, then they'll see that the Torah is true. The Torah is the blueprint for their creation. That's what King Solomon did. He simply revealed the godliness inside of everyone, who everybody really is. It didn't last because of whatever side issues with King Solomon made a few mistakes, whatever. But the Mashiach is going to fix it up. Mashiach is going to have the aspect of King David, that he's going to be a king. And he's also going to have Chachma of Malchus, his tremendous wisdom. That's the wisdom, this Aleph, putting the Aleph, the wisdom, into Gola, into the exile. Until the Oto Melech, the king that's going to come from the king, David, is going to be, Mashiach is going to have more wisdom. He'll be more wisdom, it says, than King Solomon. That's the language of the Rambam, Maimonides. He'll be even wiser than King Solomon. Ad Shleimus Inyan Mochin. He'll have the Pella. That's the third level we said. That's the thing of Pella. So first of all, the Melech HaMashiach, the Mashiach is going to have all these three aspects. First of all, he's going to show that there's a king to the world, there's a creator. Secondly, he's going to show the wonder of the Torah, that the Torah puts meaning into, tells us what to do, what the creator wants. And then we're going to feel who we really are. Everyone is a big miracle. And that's what Mashiach is going to bring. Nosef al Mochin, the Midos, the Malchus, in addition to the fact that he's a king, the king has to have wisdom, but he'll have also the wisdom of God. Like it says, Nachalav Ruach Hashem, there will come to him the spirit of God, Ruach Chachma Ubina, that's the Mashiach, the Ruach Eitza V'Gevura, Ruach Dea V'Yiras Hashem. He'll have the spirit of God, the spirit of wisdom, a spirit of understanding, spirit of giving proper advice, of power, of knowing God and fearing God. And interestingly enough, we say this here in the prayer when they take out the Sefer Torah on Yom Tov. So we add this prayer over here, and it says that everyone should be saying this. Everyone can expect when Mashiach comes that we too will have the spirit of wisdom and understanding and advice. And you do it like it's known that the Mashiach will be also a king and also a teacher. He will teach the people Torah, including Niflot Shel Pnimiyot Torah. He'll even teach us and bring us to even the miracles of the Torah. The kivan and sense, the sense, since it is the power, in order that it will be in the ability of each and every Jew to receive this revelation of the Mashiach. And from the Jews, we're going to pass it on to the whole world. As Sarech Liyot, there can be by him, there has to be by every Jew, something like this right now. We have to bring these three alephs into ourselves, into the Gola. Like every single Jew has a spark of Mashiach. Therefore, every single Jew says, "V'yitkayem banu." No, that's what I was saying. That when we say in the prayers, right, and when they take out the Torah on Yom Tov, we say, it should be fulfilled in each one of us. The sentence that says that will rest on him the spirit of God, the spirit of wisdom. We should put the Aleph, that's the king, Alufcha, the king of the world, into the emotions, into our intellect, And it should all be that we reveal the godliness in this. So how do we do this? Yesh Lomo, we can say that this is the whole idea of the Mishnah in the beginning of this Shabbat. Every Shabbat we say Pirkei Avot, after the last prayer of Shabbat. That it says four things in the beginning of the fourth chapter of Pirkei Avot. That's where we begin this Shabbat. Ezehu Chacham, who is a wise person? Who is a powerful person? It says who is a wise person? Ezehu Chacham says one who sees what's going to be born, what's the outcome of his actions. He says, who is powerful? It says a person that can overpower himself, can defy his own. Who is a rich person? A person who's happy with what he has. Who is a person who's honored? A person that honors others. The Yadu, and it's known, Shehem, that they are corresponding to four levels that are divided up, the 10 sfirot, the 10 aspects of the person's personality. How there's only four things here. It says who is wise, who is powerful, who is rich, and who is honored. It's only four. How did he get 10 from this? We'll see. Eser Kochos, this corresponds to the 10 powers of the soul. This corresponds to the 4 letters of God's name. Ezu Chacham, that's Chachma, that's the Yud of God's name. Eze Gibor, that's the Hey of God's name. Ezu Usher, that's the Vav of God's name. That's 6. 6. So we have 2 and 6, right? That's already 8. Ezehu Mechubad, this is Malchut. This is Malchut, which is, that's the idea of kavod. So the first 2, Chachma and Bina, that's Chachma and Bina. Really, that also includes Dat, the third. So that's, let's say the first 2, that's 3. And then we have 6, that's 9. And then we have who is honored, that's Malchut. That's refining the 10 aspects of our personality. Wisdom and power, that's our intellect. Rich, that's our emotions. The Rebbe will explain how. And honor, that's what's called Malchut, our action, speech, and thought. Because each and every Jew has a godly part, and that's why the Jews are called the sons of God. Every single Jew has a spark of godliness from above, and even more, all the Jewish people are a portion of God. And if you take a little part of the essence, right? If you grab a person's finger, you can pull the whole entire person with his wisdom and everything. Therefore, every Jew, therefore, has the 4 letters of God, of Yud Kei Vav Kei, and also of Aleph. Here is also of Aleph, Elokah, of godliness, the Alufa Shel Olam, of Havaya, Elokim Shel Hamayla Me'olam. There's Aleph, Dalet. Okay, usually it's the 4 letters of Aleph, Daled, Nun. This is the Alufa Shel Olam. I have to explain exactly what this. I guess Elokai. Okay, Elokim. That's right. The name Elokim, which is the creative force in the world. Here he says Elokah. Elo. All right. And there's also the 4 letters of God's name of Yud Kei Vav Kei. That's godliness, which is above the world. So every Jew has this. Every Jew is not just in the image of God, is the son of God. The son of God means that every single Jew has all of the aspects of God in a revealed way, just like a son is connected directly to his father. The avodah soul, the service of every Jew, is to reveal these 4 topics, these 4 aspects of his soul, namely who is wise, who is powerful, who is rich, who is honored. These correspond to the 10 aspects of the soul that correspond to these 4 different letters of God's name, who is wise, rich, wise, powerful, rich, and honored. That corresponds to the 4 letters of God's name, but we have to reveal this. How do we reveal it? In a way, in all of our actions, all of our deeds, all of our thoughts, right, to be connected to doing, saying, thinking what God wants, and feeling in a way that's even more than what's required of us. That's called Mili de Chasidusa. That's the thing of Pirkei Avot. Of Pirkei Avot. And by means of this, that is revealed all of these 4 aspects of our soul, this makes what's called the completion of the kingship. Every Jew has a spark of Mashiach. The spark of Mashiach that's inside of us has to be expressed in our wisdom, in our power, in our chachma, in our bina. That's the completion of kingship. That's King Solomon. The Shleimus Kisei Malchus that has 4 legs to it. It says that the 4th leg is King David. This is like King Solomon sat on this throne that was complete. And something like this whole entire business, namely, what's the Rebbe saying over here? The whole entire creation is there, so to speak, to complete God. God is not complete until he is revealed in his creation. The same thing, the creation is not complete until God is revealed in it. Mashiach is going to put this whole business together. He's going to activate all the Jews because the Jews, they are in the image of God. They are God's presence in the world. The Jewish people, they are God's what's called Shekhinah, God's presence in the world. By activating the Jews to use their wisdom, their understanding, their emotions, and their actions, speech, and thought for God, as that puts God's image in the world. That's the whole idea of Mashiach. It says King Solomon sat on the throne of God. Something like this is by every single Jew, because the Jews are the kings, sons of kings. And even more, the Jews are called kings. Until by means of this, it comes that mechubad, that every Jew becomes what's called honored, that the honor, the glory of God comes, like it says, how much more so that God will rule over all of the nations in the world. It says that the nations of the world will be very happy to finally have a normal king that really cares about them. The Rebbe once said that the leaders of the Arab nations don't care about their people. They don't care about their people. And if you look and you can see an example of it, what's called the Palestinian people over here, they hate their leaders. They hate them. They steal their money. They live in total abject poverty. Just one minute. Rak, shalom. Mize. Rega echad. I'm at somebody else's house, so I can't do what I want over here. 1 second. What's that? I'm over here. Zoom. What am I doing wrong over here? No, I don't want to do that. 1 second. 1 minute. How do I do this? I'll share. This. Oh, there it is, back here. I need a solution. I just zoom in. Okay, we're in Miron, and there's going to be. Let me just put this over. Okay, so that's what we're talking about, revealing godliness in everything that we do and everything that we are in every situation that we're in. That's what it says, that the Jewish people, that's why they're called the sons of God, because it's their job is to reveal this and their ability to reveal this, especially regarding and through the Torah. Like it says, the Jewish people are called the sons of God, and it says that all of your sons, they learn the Torah of God. Who are the kings? The kings are the rabbis. They reveal God's kingship in the world. And by means of this, they reveal what's called Chachma of Malchut. This is the wisdom of the king of King Solomon. The King Solomon until the completion of kingship as it will be in the world in these 4 things that are talked about in Pirkei Avot: Chacham, Gibor, Asher, Mechubad. Wise, powerful, understanding also, rich, and honorable, glorious. So, in other words, there will be. So, did we do this? Yes, we did. Yes. Okay. That'll be in the world revealed, and this is where we're going to stop today, even though we have not that much to go. All right, let's finish. Here we go. And even more, we're stressing on this Shabbat, that this Shabbat is called Sfirat Malchut. Spirit of Malchut. This, see, by the Rebbe, when he said this, this was a little bit different in the yeah, okay, well, let's go. Well, Befran the spirit that this Shabbat is spirit of Malchut. This is the day. Sha'az, then all of the Shabbat will be Shabbat in general is Malchut, but it's kingship. Then it'll be Shabbatot Tmimot. That we're counting the 7 complete Shabbases. This is the Malchut of this week. The last aspect of this week, Malchut of Chesed, Malchut of Gevura, Malchut, the kingship of Tiferet, Malchut Shebenetzach. That's this Shabbat, will be Malchut of Netzach, and Malchut Shebahod, Malchut Yesod. These are the 7 aspects of God's personality that we complete them by Malchut. Malchut means kingship, and that's what Mashiach is going to be. He's going to be a king. He's going to complete this revelation of God into the world. That'll be Malchut Shlemut HaHodah. This week's will be Shabbat. Oh, so it did. I'm sorry, I was wrong. It is the same thing as ours is this week. This week is the week of Hod. Is that right? No, it's not right. No, it's not. I'm sorry, it's not. This week is Netzach. This week is Netzach. So with the Rebbe, when he was speaking, this was a little bit, it was different that week than it was when the Rebbe was speaking in 1991, than it is now, than it is in this week, this year. Okay, so we're going to have to go over this last part again, and God willing, we will continue tomorrow. A little bit of confusion over here in the house, so it sort of distracted my mind. Let's do the Yom Yom, and then I'll tell the joke.